that. Catalina, my love, how do you feel? And what are you looking forward to today? Or what are you going to take away today?
What did I expect?
That one.
Thank you, Pete. It's good to be nice. I actually feel good. Very, very, very grateful. Very kind of cheery because we had finally a sunny day after many, many days of clouds and rain all day. It was kind of, it's good, and always looking forward to the session. Always, the interaction, the learning, the contributions, and just the connection with friends that most I haven't hugged, but friends nonetheless. So look forward to learn something else, something new today, and see where we go. Henry, how do you feel and what you expect to get out today?
Feeling good. Good to see you all. Like you, the weather's actually better now. It's sunny. We had a polar storm and it was really cold. It's turned into winter. The calls are getting really good. Yeah, they're getting really exciting. They're really interesting. They're at a different level. So Philemon, you've come in at a good time. Things are just starting to heat up, which is really neat. So just looking forward to adding to the artifact and building on that. John, have you been? John
No,
Butler?
Henry.
Okay, well, how do you feel and what do you expect to get out of today's call, John?
I'm feeling great. It's a beautiful winter's day in Perth. The rain is pelting down. I managed to get in a walk before the rain came. It just started as we finished the walk. I've been to Bunnings and bought things for the garden, so Di is happy. And we've just come out of 4 days of lockdown, so we're only semi-restricted at the moment. Thinking a lot about the strange world we live in and the changes. And I was talking to some friends in Switzerland last night. They've both had COVID and about what it's like in Europe at the moment. One of their biggest concerns is the football and the audiences at the stadiums. But anyway, it's a crazy world. Had a great call last week. I'm looking forward to adding to my knowledge. And as most of you are saying, taking out of this something I can apply, something that's real. So that's what I'm feeling. Susan, are you with us?
Yes, John. I'm sorry, I'm still running around the hospital, but I didn't want to miss you folks.
So what do you plan to take out of today?
I'm feeling great and happy to be catching you. I am looking forward to answering some of these deeper questions. And I love the fact that we'll get perspectives from so many people with each of their own special case to add to those ideas. And I can't see everybody because I'm on my phone. So who else is waiting to go?
Joe.
Hey, Joe, how do you feel? And what do you want to get out of today?
Hi, Susan. I'm feeling a little bit tired, but I'm feeling good. Glad to see everybody. I'm always energized by seeing everybody, and thank you for everybody's contributions for last week. I'm looking to just get in a little bit deeper into the objective and subjective. That's something that I've always had a little bit of problem distinguishing, and so I look forward to exploring that a little bit more detail with everyone here today. So, Philemon, Raffers, how do you feel and what do you want to get out of today?
No, thank you, Joe. Actually, I feel again happy to be here. It's always great to be joining all this group of like-minded individuals. And what I expect to get out today is again more understanding and more clarity around, the questions that actually Kelly proposed to discuss today. I think they're very important questions, and it's great again to look at everybody's views and what we get out together as a group. So who hasn't gone yet, Kelly?
Steve.
Oh, Steve, my favorite mentor. How do you feel and what do you expect to get out today?
You're on mute, Steve, for some reason.
Hey, yeah.
Turn the volume up.
I've got my podcast microphone plugged in and I have my podcast microphone up there. I didn't ring it out. So see, this just goes to show you how my day is going today. So now I've unplugged in order to participate, which is absolutely backwards if you think about it, which is totally Bucky. as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm looking forward to. I love this the what goes on in this group, and we have major collaboration that's needed if the objective is really to modernize or contemporize, because I think Bucky was very modern with what he was doing, and maybe we're just now coming to what he was talking about in terms of our culture, but somehow we need to bring that into language that we use today. I think that's our challenge, and I'm looking forward to making some headway there. Manu, how are you feeling, and what is your expectation today?
Well, I'm feeling good. I'm emergent, and then grateful that everybody's there, that I'm there, even a little bit late. And what I expect, I've just catch it. I just catch your last sentence, Steve, that you say challenge. It's not only challenge, but we need to innovate. Bucky wasn't a Bible, right? It's not set. It is something dynamic that changes. And it's not excluded that new concepts and things that are relevant come alive to us. So that's my expectation of this. It started with small steps, but there could be precessive events happening, new things that happen. Who's last?
Kelly is the only one I know of.
Hey, Kelly, buddy, I can see you. I'm happy to see you. And I see your hair, like newish. How do you feel? What do you expect?
Well, I feel the way my hair looks scattered. I've had a flu from hell, and I only get them about once every 5 years, but I got it, and there's not many things that make me surrender, but I've had to surrender to this one. So, it is what it is. What I expect to get out of today is just conversation around design, but not just conversation around design, application of design. And if we want to make a social difference, we have to go beyond this group. We actually have to start going beyond. And I don't know, I can't even remember how long ago, but on another call, we started a Bucky Slack. And on that Bucky Slack, we were going to create an artifact that showed all the different things we'd been studying. And so, we created another one, which was Australia, New Zealand, but I think that that's not as important as the original one that we created. So we've started to migrate into that Slack group so that we've got one common place where everything is. Like when I send information out, I send it out unlisted. And when I send it out unlisted, it's because I respect everybody on this call that, you may not want to be seen on this call to the greater world. And I accept that. But I also believed right from the very beginning that we'd create an artifact. And so now what I'm doing is I've created this, well, I haven't created it. Catalina, Steve, Joe are starting to recreate the Slack channel. Fred created the Slack channel in the beginning. And it seemed like I was the only one that was really keen on the artifacts because I posted everything. And it never really got off the ground. But I think it didn't get off the ground because it wasn't the right time. But with all the social networking going on right now, I think it's the right time. And with the permission of everyone here, I think that we should now make this a listed channel, which means it goes out to the greater world, and have the information carried at Slack. So it goes beyond YouTube, but we have YouTube videos, but we have them on Slack so people know that exactly what it does. What are the feelings about that? Yeah, we can use our little icons that are provided to us by Zoom. I'm actually in favor. Joe? Okay, Johnny?
Kelly, a question.
Yeah.
Are you talking about posting the whole recording of, say, a Sunday session?
Yes.
And that would be posted just to the world generally?
No, to Slack.
To anyone that wanted to look at it.
For anyone that wanted to look at it. And if you wanted to send somebody there, you'd send them. If it's just a question of you know, the part that might come hard is for when people, what they're feeling and what they're saying. I get that, and that we can take that out, but I think that's what makes it real.
No, okay. Yep.
Okay, everyone's in agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, and I'll give you an example of what it is, if I can get it up. Just hang on, I have to go into my background. I'll show it at the end of it. I've already started to place the things into Slack. Catalina has already started to do work in Slack. Joe's working in Slack, and then we've got a recalcitrant, my mentor. But I'm sure he'll get on board.
Technical.
And really, it's just have everything in one place, so we're not dancing around everywhere. And then we have our own private lives, and it's always been the case of that you can share these videos if you choose, you know. And it's you know, people that are on the call, if they want to explain, it's pretty hard to explain what we do, but what you get is the intent. And I think that's really very important, is the intent of the call. And the fact that, you know, not a single one of us can claim ownership, but everyone's an owner, if that makes sense. And to me, that's what responsibility and accountability is about. It's not about leadership. It's not about being an entrepreneur. It's actually about being an owner, and an owner to me is responsible and accountable, if that makes sense. It's not just accountable, it's responsible and accountable, or it's not accountable without responsibility. That's why, for me, that's why I ask the question. And I make it very clear that it's not my decision. And the thing is, if a group can't make a decision, what chance do we have on the planet? You know, to me, that it's really that simple. When we look at what's going on in Australia, John, I mean, if that isn't just pure politics, I'll give it away. In this country, they can't even agree on who gets vaccinated, what they get vaccinated. Instead of telling the truth, they don't have the bloody vaccinations and they're waiting on them. You know, I mean, we're all that stupid that they can go around and tell us all kinds of lies, but the reality of it is they don't have enough vaccinations. And
but they're also starting to use coercion now.
Yes.
The advice is flipping from those under 60 shouldn't have AstraZeneca to the young should have AstraZeneca because they've got it and can't get rid of it. So therefore,
yeah, they can't get rid of it. So they want to get rid of it. That is the basis of their decision making. Now, I don't care whether you want to take the virus or not. That's your choice. But the fact is, we're being so conditioned in such
a lot of it's not honest. I'm just concerned. I mean, I get a lot of information from the dark side. I get a lot of the conspiracy theorists and other stuff sent to me from a particular person. And I know a lot of that's false, but also think some of it's true. And I do think that what truth we get is very filtered or distorted often. So very hard to know who you can trust, if anybody.
But aren't filters part of design? I mean, if I was going to say anything, I would say that we're a tuner filter.
Mm-hmm.
We tune into something, and then we have the ability to filter.
Filtering is a major design tool. It's a major. That's how you mute and you put aside. Yes. And then you can open later.
Yes.
It is the switch.
Isn't that relying on us being given all of the facts so that we can filter?
No, that's upon you to be accountable and responsible to make sure you're making the best informed decision.
Hmm.
right? It's like the second we say that people have got to give us the information, that's what we were studying earlier, John, around initiative. Do we take initiative? You know, and from the point of view of what's going on all over the world right now, it is ridiculous. You know, in Wembley Stadium on the soccer, they got 1,200 COVID positive tests from one game. But they're going to put more people in the stadium for the next game.
Yeah.
So, but that to me, it's not about the 1,200 COVID, it's misinformation. It's like, I've just gone through a flu that I was certain that if I was COVID, it was going to be that. But it was nowhere near it. I got tested and all the stuff. And it really is, our body has the ability to cure itself. You know, and so if we look at that and we say, okay, do I want to take all the stuff that goes through? No, it runs through my body and eventually my body filters it out. Says, I don't want that shit. But I'll tell you, it's a struggle. And so in my mind, it's like, I'm not worried about COVID. I'm worried about the way we're filtering COVID, if that makes sense. So again, it's really a matter, and you know, if someone chooses to put a needle in their body, so be it. You know, I've done some, all I can say, and the correct word is fucking stupid things. I mean, really stupid things, including shooting hot and cold water into my veins.
Whoa.
Yeah. But you know what? I was an experimenter. And I figured it can't be that bad. It's not a drug, it's just water. And you change the temperature, and I'll tell you, it's not what you should be doing. but it was a way of finding something out. And you know, I can tell you I don't recommend it. But there's only one thing that you can say about it. Fucking stupid. You know. And again, I'm experienced. I've always said I'm not terribly smart, I'm just terribly experienced. But whatever the case is, I mean, to me, it really is a matter of saying to ourselves, can we work out a design that we can help to generate and, you know, get into this thing. I hope this is going to work. Okay, there we go. So let's start the lesson. But I really appreciate the fact that people are willing to go that little bit further and say, we've got to change things. And, you know, I agree with Steve in terms, and Manu in terms of saying, this is not a Bible. This is a framework that we can choose to deliver as we choose as a group. And to get a group consensus is bloody hard. And, you know, as a business owner, I'd say, I don't want a group consensus. I want a group focus. And, you know, someone has to be told, they have to be told, because in my view, when you're looking at something, so if you don't know, you don't know. And why would you influence me if you don't know? If that makes sense. Does people understand what I'm saying? People are poorly researched and lack experience, and they want you to live behind their limited experience. And I just don't accept that. You know, and it's like, okay, so let me experience that. Let me go out, let me experience it, and I'll tell you what I think. And I've always figured out that, you know, if you do it reasonably contained, you're probably going to make it through. But there will be a time you don't. And who said it? Someone said it last week. It's the end of the experiment, Raphael. Well, you know, that's what I see my life here as, an experiment and an experience. So anyway, John, are you going to read for me today?
Yes, Kelly, I will. You want me to start?
Please do. Go through the questions and then we'll start at number 5.
What are experiments? What is subjective? what is objective, what is apprehension. So first one, what are experiments? Although children have the most superb imaginative faculties, when they explore and arrive at new objective formulations, they rely spontaneously and strategically only upon their own memory of relevant experiences. With anticipatory imagination, children consider the consequences of their experiments, such as a physical experiment entailing pure, unprecedented risk, yet affording a reasonable possibility of success and including a preconception of the probable alternative physical consequences of their attempt.
Okay, Woo, comments or questions?
We're talking about the importance of anticipatory imagination, without which we are limited to our own memory of relevant experiences.
Yeah.
And so what are they, what's he saying about a child coming to this planet?
Have the best imaginative faculties.
Yeah,
They're already wired for imagination.
Yeah, and they're already wired to accept experience.
Yeah.
So as they accept the experience, they have these drives. Remember last week we spoke about drives?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about you guys, but again, I was driven as a kid to touch the hot stove.
Yeah.
You know, and my mother happened to have a gas stove. And my shirt caught on fire. So I pretty soon worked out, you don't touch the goddamn stove. Right? It's like, you know, you got an arm and the skin's a bit burnt and you realize very quickly that's not such a good idea. So when I say to people, you know, I touched the stove, I touched the stove. But my grandson won't go anywhere near a stove. Now it's hot.
But what he also says here is that children already got the ability to be sticky to whatever they've arrived at in the process of imaginating. They get into the vortex. I don't know if I make myself clear.
Okay,
Here.
so make yourself clear.
Okay, so when they explore and arrive at new objective formulation, they rely spontaneously and strategically upon their own memory of relevant experiences. This is gravity.
So what do you mean by this is gravity?
Well, you know, like if you arrive at something that it is new, but seems of interest to you and seems to make some sense, you not only contemplate it, but you play with for a while. You get into the, you know, you are sucked into it, experience it further.
Is it sucked in or pulled in?
Yes.
Well, because if you're talking about gravity,
yes,
it pulls you in, right?
Yes.
The curiosity of it pulls you in.
Yes.
And it pulls you into the center of the beingness.
Yes. It is like you had an electric field and you put a magnetic something in there. It bends it. It creates that warp. That is gravity.
And naturally, I can add to that. And I know you've seen very small kids. One of the first things they do when they play is to drop things. And they do that again and again and again. All they're doing is experiencing gravity, understanding how it works. And they never get bored about the exploration and the challenge. And then it gets integrated and then they explore more things and they start building up experiences. So yeah, and that's again design. That's what we're designed to do. Children just get to work the design from the moment they're born.
Yeah.
You know, Raphael, that you bring up an interesting point, because when you said that, I had 5 kids. They all had a time when they would just take something off of their chair and just reach over and just drop it. And they just watch it drop. And they do it over and over and over again. And then I'm thinking about, I have a buddy who has a dog. And the only reason why that dog drops a ball is so that his master will pick it up and throw it. You know,
Yes.
it's not like the dog is looking to see, well, how is the ball going to drop this time? and how mad will mommy and daddy get when it hits the floor? It's like, here's the ball, throw the damn thing. I want to chase it. It's like there's no, it's a reactive process rather than a contemplative process, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So good story, Raphael.
Yeah, my granddaughter gets slime. The big balls, they make the homemade slime.
Yeah.
And she glues one part of it she just puts it on top of the table and pulls the tail out of it. And then she has two going, and she wants to see which one will hit the floor first. And she soon worked out that the heavier you can have it over the side, the faster, in the case of slime, then it moves towards the floor. And I mean, she could do that for hours. So it's like, again, watching gravity at play.
There's another thing in that, what you just said, Kelly, that curiosity is an individual thing. I mean, your granddaughter is curious about slime balls getting to the floor quicker, and I don't know, other people are curious about gravity or mechanics or music or art or whatever. Every individual on the soul, every child I've ever watched has something that they are uniquely curious about. And I actually wonder if that's part of some universal design, is there in quotes, a soul's purpose to that curiosity because it's so unique?
Yeah, well, I'll give you another example. My grandson, on the other hand, couldn't care less about the slime, but the magnets on my desk, there's not a time that he comes over that he doesn't want to know about the magnets. And, they've got a north and south, and he knows intuitively, if it pushes it away, boy, he flips it over that fast, it doesn't matter. And then he relates it to the light switch. He'll turn a light switch on and off, on and off, on and off. And he's trying to work out, how does it go from the light switch to the light and back so fast? And then he'll apply it. He's got a train set. He'll pull the bloody train set apart to see where the batteries are. And again, it's all curiosity. It's all this, I've got this idea going on in my head, and that's exactly what he does.
Bucky describes this curiosity with the key words here: anticipatory imagination.
Yeah.
It seems to me that when Bucky says anticipatory imagination, because I talk all the time about how dogs dream. I've seen my dogs over the years. I've owned dogs. I don't own any now, but they'll sit and sleep, and I can see them running and barking. That's a dream. That's imagination at work. But there's nothing anticipatory about it. Where I can have a dream, somehow I put things together in a way that anticipate an outcome that my brain has not previously stored. There seems to be something about my imagination that leaves my brain behind, my storage unit behind, and moves into an unknown realm, anticipating something and wondering what that is.
Actual fact, anticipatory imagination is actually programmatic. In other words, this is anticipatory imagination. This guy is looking for something.
Yeah.
It is. It was made for that. Systemically, is looking for something. So,
Yeah.
so it, yes.
Well, it was made for that. I mean, it's its very nature.
Yes. And to prevent it, Steve, you need to put a bond. You need to put a limit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, naturally, it is looking for something.
And this is where we've got a bit of an issue with kids, I suppose, going back to that. We're not putting a bond. We're not putting that magnet to encourage. A lot of them have been told, stop, don't. Like to cancel the experiments that they're having in their little mind. So that's like you're just saying, Manu, without adding the connector, that's doing nothing. And is that somewhat a bit of our responsibility to be the connectors, identify the creativity not only in ourselves but in others and encourage it?
Well, when you talk about Philemon, when you talk, I mean, I'm just jumping forward here. When you talk about design, another analogy is channeling otherwise dissipative energies towards something.
How would you describe a channel?
A channel is a structured space, is a space through which energy passes.
Wouldn't you say a channel is the boundary of the structure moving through space?
Yes.
So the second we understand, like when you put that up, Manu, put up your magnets again. So when you're looking at it, if you look at the 0 point, where's the 0 point in that Manu? Yeah, the actual ball itself, right? The sphere itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so when you have the single bond, it's looking for a double bond. So it's looking to something that it can bond to.
Running away. If I do this, whoop.
So now it's bonding, and now you've got a flexible joint.
Yeah.
And so now you start to look at, see right there, it's repelling.
Yes.
See, right here, it's structured.
Yes.
There's definitely degrees of movement here and some degrees of freedom, but they're structured. There's no anticipatory. And as soon as I bring this guy up here, it's like my brain will always come up with one of these. There's always some vector coming out of 0 point that's not structured, that's not previously structured. Now, some people love this structure. Look at the freedom. They can move in here. They can do all sorts of things, but there's something about my brain that does this. It says, okay, I got that structure. I got some degrees of freedom here, but wait a minute, what if I do this? And all of a sudden, chaos begins. This is children. Children at play are chaos. Anticipatory imagination.
So what's your definition of chaos at that moment, Steve?
Yeah, no kidding. It's anticipatory imagination. It's not really chaos, is it?
It's not chaos at all.
It's not chaos at all. It just seems like chaos when I'm the guy who has to clean the crap off the floor that keeps dropping off of the stupid chair, right? That looks like chaos to me.
So to stop the chaos, we can say, don't do that.
That's exactly right. And we solve a whole bunch of problems, but we destroy anticipatory imagination.
But do we create more problems?
Oh, yeah.
And that's a good analogy for the education system since the industrial age began. For the most part, the education system teaches people what to think, not how to think, and it channels and blocks their natural curiosity instead of treating every child like a genius and allowing them to find their own unique genius.
Peter, doesn't that go to Manu's point of channeling?
Absolutely. But it also opens up the possibility of, without judging the education system, it opens up the possibility of designing a education system with a different purpose.
Yeah.
And here's one more. Oh, sorry. Somebody else say something. When you're done,
Actually, Bucky was all about teaching people to think for themselves. That is, explore, understand, and then have your own thoughts, not somebody else's thoughts, but your own. Own it again, and I think understanding design is critical to do that. You understand design, it is very difficult actually because you can be trained to actually stop your design working efficiently and effectively. I mean, that's what contemporary education does. It makes people stupid.
My daughter.
Well, I wouldn't say it's stupid, Raphael. I think it's more preconditioning.
Yeah.
You're putting, like you say, you're putting channels on people's thoughts. You're putting boundaries on their thoughts. That's why Bucky goes with children in the start. And we looked at this with our own kids when they were young and said, do we want to send them to a kindergarten? Do we want to send them to a Montessori? And there was another organization around in this country where they called Play Center, where the kids, there's actually a lot of parents are involved in it, where they bring kids there and they have a lot of, and they kids can just play, they can just explore, and they do whatever they want to do, as opposed to a Montessori, which is a lot more structured for a 3-year-old, where they're starting to teach them maths and reading. It's a
Yeah,
different-
I mean, the thing is this, it is happening all the time. It's happening so fast, right? Conditioning, or whatever we call it, channels are always there, and they're always happening and disappearing, right? And they happen and disappear fast. The issue is this one. I wouldn't say that education is stupid. I would say it's systematically stupid in that it chooses preferred channel and forces everybody through it. To, choosing channel to make tunnels and forces everybody through it. Whereas another approach is to kind of, how will I call it? I wouldn't say freedom, because freedom on its own is completely radiative. Freedom is in the doing of something, in the permissivity to combine, to do things, to go through things or combine things. And the larger your set, the toolbox, the larger your experiments, the larger what you are allowed to by those who are guardian of your environment in which you live, those who are conditioning, the better it's going to be in terms of experiences, experimenting, and then coming to know what it is and how to use, or how to align for results that are better.
But isn't that what experiments are? Looking for the boundary.
Yeah.
You're looking
Yes.
for the boundary of the capability and the capacity. First
Yes.
of all, we have no understanding what the capacity of our mind really is. So we haven't reached the boundary of our mind capacity. That's why your mind doesn't set. Then you start to say, well, what am I capable of? And when you get down to the capability of it, you're now starting to say, well, what is this beingness capable of? Well, I've confirmed very clearly that I'm capable of being fucking stupid. No question about that at all. But I've also demonstrated very clearly that I can be a genius. I don't have any problem with the idea between that, because, in my mind, it's really simple. The uglier I can be, the greater I become.
Yeah.
Right.
I am not frightened of being ugly. And so, to me, the greatest movement is from ugly to great.
Yeah.
Good and bad. We bask in good and bad. Oh, that's not so bad.
Kelly, what you just touched on is something that kind of in yogic traditions they call polarity, and that ability to extend to either extreme on a continuum, and you don't get one without the other. So you have to be willing, as you say, to allow for all of it.
Yeah. And it's like what I know in all my years of experience, I accept ugly. I just say, okay, that's ugly. And when I've got another one, fugly. It's like, I can be fugly. That's unhealthy and ugly. It's like, it's not a good place to be. But I can tell you that I know the only way to come out of that is you have to move. And you get your movements, because at the moment you can recognize ugly, you can move towards a different boundary.
Right.
The thing that forces you to that different boundary is we hear all these stories of these people coming from just desperate situations. And all of a sudden they've turned into, and in most cases, it's an economic, they get, I got so much money, I don't know what to do with. Right now, we're looking at these, are they NFTs? Has anyone heard of the NFTs?
Yes.
They're the digital music,
Non-fungible
digital
tokens.
art.
Yeah, digital, it's a digital thing where you can have a 14 or 15-year-old kid in their bedroom who's taking a beating from his parents, and he's gone inward to himself, and he's drawing pictures. And then he puts them in these galleries, these NFT galleries. I don't understand it, but I do know that this guy's getting more accolades because he's selling them for up to $3 million. They're just thoughts.
Actually, it was $20 million,
Whoa.
the record of it.
So you're looking at complete mind capacity being exposed. You have a look at it. You Google NFT galleries. I can't wait because my granddaughter has got the greatest imagination I know, and I got some pictures I'm ready to lodge. So, let the bidding start. But I don't do that because I want to see what the hell it is. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. And I don't get this. What it tells me is money is actually becoming totally irrelevant. What we're looking for is exchange of something. You're looking at kids showing just where they're coming from, where we're dealing with the anxieties of the world. And it's like, someone's going to sit in a rocket beside Bezos and pay $28 million to go 100 miles in the air. It just means money's not worth anything anymore. It's like,
Right.
if we start looking at this thing and we start saying to ourselves, what the hell's going on here? So, comments or questions?
Well, I had an epiphany about 90 degrees. And because Manu has been trying to explain 90 degrees to me, and over the weekend, we had a conversation, and the 90 degrees became relevant. And I just came up, even though this angle right here between my blue magnet and my steel and my black dot over here, and my orange magnet, my black dot, even though this angle is that 60 degrees that Richard was so into it, that 60-degree angle is formed by 90-degree relationships. This blue magnet has a 90-degree relationship with that dot, and this orange magnet has a 90-degree relationship with this dot. And now my new light blue magnet has a 90-degree relationship with that dot, and every freaking where that it's on that freaking dot, it's at 90 freaking degrees. And I'm sitting here blowing my mind.
Okay, so Steve, at that moment, put another one of your 0 points.
I just happen to have one.
I know you would.
Okay.
Now get another vector.
You betcha.
Okay, now what's that vector going to do?
It's looking.
It's looking. Now let it find one of the other 0 points.
Uh-oh.
Now what have we got?
A structure.
We got a hinged triangle.
Hinge freaking triangle. It's actually a butterfly.
Yeah.
It's important that was chaos at one point that you were calling it. So that was really another way of saying it would be that's potential. And potential became that actually that.
I have a favorite quote from one of the Addams Family movies where, oh no, it's not a movie, it's one of the series where I think it's Wednesday says, what is normal for the spider is chaos for the fly.
Right.
But that's how we see chaos, though, and we don't realize that's just evolving circumstance.
And evidently the chaos of the fly is the lifeblood of the spider.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Because that fly will not see that web. That fly just flies right into that freaking web.
And it's interesting how, my granddaughter won't allow me to eat her goose, but she allows a spider to eat a fly.
Huh.
So what that's worth. Comments or questions before we move on?
Did you name the goat? Never mind.
Did we name the goose? Yeah, she's got a name for it.
Yeah, that's why she doesn't want to eat it. Her problem was she named the damn thing.
Well, the truth is, I don't want to eat it, but I can't resist the temptation of where her mind goes.
Right.
And I mean, it goes everywhere. Anyway, John, for example.
Yes, for example, they may conceivably jump over a ditch today, even though it is wider than any other over which they have previously leapt. They only make the attempt because they've also learned experientially that as they grow older and bigger, they are often surprised to find that they can jump further and higher than ever before. How do all my muscles feel about it now? And shall I or shall I not try? Become exquisitely aesthetic questions leading to synergetically integrated physical, metaphysical, split-second self-appraisals and exclusively intuitive decisions. If it's everything go, all thoughts of negative consequences are brushed aside.
Comments or questions?
That last sentence, I think, is the I don't know, the unconscious mantra of entrepreneurs. We look at everything and go, shall I try or not try? And if we say we're trying, all thoughts of negative consequences are brushed aside.
Man, any entrepreneur who says he's trying ain't an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs don't try. Entrepreneurs do.
Experiment, yes.
What I would say here is that it comes at due time. Let me repeat it. It comes at due time. It is a living system. It is dynamic and is adaptive. Every time that they're trying something experiment, something else is going on, unbeknownst to them, but something is going on until it reaches a level where they just leap. They just split from the one initial and leap. So they add in a quantum that is distinctive to what was before.
Is this the beginning of the concept evermore, ever less?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the concept of evermore, ever less is inherently organic and is quantized. I would say organically quantized. Let me explain again what I mean. Is that you trying things, there are experiments going on and there is a process going on too, until it reaches a critical mass of your system, your muscles, your mind, your imagination, that you brush aside. It means that this quantity now, I'm enough now to get through this. But that is unconscious to you. It is your unconscious self that is doing it.
Okay, so that's grow older and bigger. And now all of a sudden, how do my muscles feel about it now?
Yeah. That all of a sudden is precessive. That is
it's
all of a sudden.
It's well processive. I agree with you there. But it's something stored and something related.
Yes.
And the second you go to that, the thing is you're creating ever more with ever less, because now you've got more relationships and interrelationships. And then sooner or later, this to me encapsulates most of Fuller's thinking. Because we're not in this grow older, bigger, stronger era right now. We're in this thing about how do my muscles feel about it now. We've sort of got to the limits of the perceived limits of this body. Now we're starting to test, how do my muscles feel about it now? And now we're towards mind.
Yeah. And it happened very dramatically at birth. You have a fetus. The fetus is in the uterus and it is transforming over time. 36 weeks later, all of a sudden, the fetus is urged to come out bursting in a cry. Otherwise, it is still dead. That experience is the ultimate jump, I think.
Okay, so now you're saying a seed is inception.
Yes.
Okay, so now we got this seed. Now this seed starts to grow. It's now got gestation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, so as a farmer, that's the key to what you're watching is the gestation of your livestock. That's why pigs are so popular. You can get 2.5 birth cycles, 13 piglets, and a lot of meat.
Yeah.
That's why you see pigs doing as well as they do. Now look at the cycle of a chicken, and then compare it to plants and all the rest of it. And you start to look at your cycles and your capabilities inside those cycles. And so again, it's the mind relationships. And we're starting to realize, and then what's the extension that we go to on all those thoughts? So we got the inception, we got the gestation, now we look at metabolic.
Yes.
And so when we're looking at the metabolic side of it, and after you've had your metabolic, the natural position after metabolic is regenerative. Mm-hmm. How will it repeat? Does that make sense? Comments or questions?
Yeah, I couldn't help but think of how some of the chemical companies like Monsanto have abused that natural cycle and promised a higher yield because of something metabolic, yet in a totally non-regenerative way that's destroying the soil, which will ultimately destroy things. And I think from a curing point of view, if we can get an awareness in farmers to go back to a regenerative cycle, I'm not saying not to try and increase metabolic through whatever methods, but I'm just saying if you come back to a regenerative cycle, a lot of the problems would eliminate. Because I watched a documentary a couple of weeks ago, and it was saying that the world is likely to have a dust bowl because of what's going on in the metabolic in the soil, what's not going on in the soil because of things like Monsanto. So coming back to a regenerative cycle is actually crucial to our humanity's survival.
So you're saying it's kind of getting ugly.
It's fugly.
Was that kiss the soil?
Yeah, actually.
Fugly, yes. So go ahead, John.
Where are we? I'm as far as I can on the page.
No. I thought you had a comment that you're making.
Oh, I think the name of the movie that was referred to as Kiss the Soil, is that right?
You see, again, instead of making it right or wrong, why don't we just see it as pollution, a problem that needs a solution?
Yeah, exactly.
And the second we can get into that, we don't get into all this other stuff, and we don't look at it and say, well, I'm right and you're wrong. We get into how do we solve this problem? Because pollution is part of a cycle.
Yeah.
What does pollution tell us?
Not helping us. It's left over.
Yeah, pollution is now your profit.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at it, it's left over. Now, as a good business owner, I'm not looking for pollution. I'm saying to myself, okay, so that's not working. But I'll tell you what, I'll just do twice as much and I'll move twice as fast and I'll get it. And rather than saying, how do I solve this problem? And so when I go to solve the problem, I'm now at a new cause, right? And the second I go to that new cause, I'm looking for a conversion or a new preconditioning, if that makes sense. So I'm experimenting all the time. I mean, John, how many iterations has your law firm gone through?
Oh, good grief. I couldn't keep count. This current firm is 27 years old, and the changes in that time have just been incredible. They're constant.
And what causes you to change?
The desire to survive.
Yeah, the design to survive. Because, I mean, is the legal system becoming polluted right now?
Oh, very, very.
It is unbelievably politically, economically polluted. And so, you know, instead of avoiding it, why don't we just say we've got to do something about it? And instead of, I mean, talk about the fox in the hen house. Let's get a lawyer to solve the problem of lawyers. Jeez. I mean, oh no, I'll do one better than you. I'll get a politician to do it.
That's worse.
Yeah, well, most politicians are lawyers.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's unfair.
They just carry a different label. Now I'm showing a bias. But to me, it's a problem that needs to be solved. And it gets solved. And you know, we've taken so long on this thing called experiment. And we look at it and see what's really being said about experiment. Are experiments important?
yes.
Okay, so what would we expect? Like as we're experimenting, what are we expecting to as outcomes?
An improvement, a better result.
Yeah.
A solution that can be an empirical, not a subjective, or from subjective to objective. Would that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So at that moment, if we're starting to look through this thing and saying, okay, we realize this physical and metaphysical, right? And a lot of the stuff that we're looking at as we're going through this, as we're starting to see where Fuller's going. So what we're going to try and do is get to what is subjective and see why it is that Fuller goes from experiment to what is subjective. Go ahead, John.
Just before that, I've just got a comment about that. Synergetically integrated physical, metaphysical, split second self-appraisal, exclusively intuitive decisions. I think that he brings that up because it's about that split second decision-making process. Most people overthink before they do it. And so he says exclusively intuitive decisions. If you're an entrepreneur, you want to be able to make decisions reasonably quickly. And then also after, once you've made the decision, everything go, nothing negative. Negative consequences are brushed aside. Most people go back and then, like I see that all the time when I'm talking to people, they can't make a decision to save themselves. They go, I have to think about it. And I go, well, great. How long is your thinking process? Put them on the spot. Is it a day? Is it a week? Is it, you know, what do you need to think about and go through that? Because most people don't. They don't want to make a decision.
Yeah, if it's more than 10 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
Simple as that. If it takes more than 10 minutes, you'll get caught in a twister.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've seen me 100 times, Henry. I make a decision and then right or wrong, good or bad, we ride that sucker out for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, we now see what's on the table.
Yeah.
Fuller does it when he says, oh, well, that experiment didn't work. Don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. Leave it as it is. We'll come back in the morning and look at it fresh.
Yeah, exactly.
And then at that moment, okay, what worked, what didn't work. And then all of a sudden we're saying, okay, let's make a decision. The second you make that decision, you work the decision. Is that the point you're making, Henry?
Yes. And you make the decision quickly. Get on with it. It's processional.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, when you got 1,000 people in the room and no one will roll a die, there's as good an experiment as you'll ever see on make a decision. And for 15 minutes, in a 90-minute program, it's roll the die,
Yeah.
roll the die, roll it, and you get everybody doing it. And
Yeah.
then you see, well, what happened? And all of a sudden you see an acceleration of program. And I mean, it's hard to believe, but that split-second decision got 1,000 minds to work together. I'll put out another one where there's an experiment where they're trying to land a plane, and they had these little sticks and they had 1,000 people in the audience. They couldn't get people to land it. But all of a sudden, one voice said, move left.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see it moving, and then you see the corrections. Because when they moved left, guess what happened to the plane? It's going to crash. And then everyone's going, holy, no, move right. And then they get it so that it's working at a stable, and then they start moving forward. Okay, Henry, is that what finished what you were saying?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, John.
What is subjective? Children conduct their spontaneous explorations and experiments with naive perceptivity. They have an innate urge, first subjectively, to sort out, find order in, integratively comprehend, and synergetically memory bank their experience harvests as inter-transformability system sets.
Okay, comments or questions?
So they are seeking to bring order to the unknown or the chaos.
Yeah.
Essentially. So that's what
To
children are
their
doing.
satisfaction.
To their satisfaction.
Enter
Without
the
any
word-
pollution.
Yeah, enter the word subjective.
Yeah.
It's their order.
He also uses the word naive perceptivity. Means there isn't a lot of anticipation.
Yeah.
You will say children because they are the least conditioned yet are the most sensitive to the gravitational pull of order. That's their innate urge first. I repeat it, because children have been the least conditioned.
Yeah.
They are the most sensitive to the orderly gravitational pull.
So how does that apply to children before we move forward, how does that apply to children that at inception are malnourished to when they're dropped on the planet?
Say again?
How does it apply to children that are malnourished at inception all the way through to gestation and when they land on the planet?
They are less sensitive. They are impaired.
So now you've got impairment.
Yes.
Impairment. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so
we effectively shrink their capacity, definitely, by doing that.
Or you could say we damage the hard wiring they are born with.
Yes.
That's only the physical though. We also do it with the mental aspects of things as well. I mean, so we do this at every level.
So there's a preconditioning. My point is there a preconditioning at inception?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is a consequence of the fact that we are a continuum. I mean, you know, if you want to be mechanistic, like some people say that, you know, we just, how will I say it? Transmitting genes. But effectively, your adaptative system is extremely, it takes from your environment. It takes physically, metaphysically from your environment and build you. So if those constituents that are necessary for the form and the imaginative capacity that define the Homo sapiens is not in there, well, it's going to be missing. It's almost like input output. If the input are poor, no matter what you do of output, you're only combining something that is poorer.
So now you're talking about innate urge, innate drive.
Yes.
And so at the moment is it ugly if we reduce their urge?
Yes, definitely so.
Well, subjectively, we could say yes. And now what are we doing objectively?
We reduce it.
No, objectively, we're examining it.
Yeah.
We're saying, is that true? Subjectively, we see this dull urge. And just tell me how many books have been written on the dullness of children since we've been going into all the smoking and drinking. And, you know, now we're starting to look at malnutrition. And they have an innate urge first. Are we creating dullness? Does everyone understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's quite, but I got some good news for you. We can have dull children, but we can have great cyborgs.
Yeah.
You know, we can go out and we can attach new limbs and we can get those guys to dance to a computer program. But we don't realize that they have we as a beingness has an innate urge. And, you know, as we move out, we're so bloody clever, we can't even take care of our own design before we redesign. And there's no question that it's going to be polluted because the capability of that doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, I love the idea of having robots wiping my ass. I really do. But the thing is, I want to learn to do it first and then decide whether I want that robot. Right? You have no idea. In my business, you have no idea how many times a year people come into our workshop warehouse and ask us to help them design a bum washer. You have no idea. I'm going to
A bum washer.
a bum washer.
It's called a bidet.
No, it's called B-Days. That's old school, John. We got to get the jet just right. It's going to be warm water. You know, we got it all worked out. You'd be surprised.
The machine to have you find your asshole.
Oh, brilliant, those things, mate. I can't believe every house doesn't have one of them yet.
But that is covering layers of BS over layer of BS.
Yeah, well, you know why they do it? Because they don't want to shake the hand that wipes the ass.
Yeah.
That's how.
Well, Muslims, they don't have the problem.
What's that?
Muslims don't have that problem because they only use their left hand to wipe their asses.
Or what about your right hand?
That's what you eat with.
Want to eat.
Eat with the right, wipe with the left.
That's the end of the meal.
I'll tell you, Bucky is sorry that he missed this conversation.
Probably.
No, but I'm telling you, it's like we're creating all these cyborgs, and it's like we can solve the problem of washing a bum, yet we can't solve the problem of starvation.
Exactly.
We can't solve these other problems. We can't realize that the urge is leaving us.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, to me, this artifact is so important.
Yeah.
We have to really get down to the nitty gritty. And, you know I've been quite ugly today, but by design. It's because when we get into that, we start to realize how important it is. It's like, it's children conduct their spontaneous explorations. Right now, we're making it wrong to be an explorer.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, you guys, let's get out and explore. And it's all over the world. We're hearing people saying, oh, you can't say that. Yeah, well, I just did.
Yeah.
Now explore it. It's ugly. I get it's ugly. But somewhere in there, we have to realize that unless you deal with the ugly, and to me, the ugliness is reducing an urge. And of course, there's two sides to that. And again, or probably for whatever. But the thing is, we still have to explore it from a subjective point of view. And then the second we go from the subjective, what are we doing in this new mind world?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Steve.
Well, I have a question about synergetically memory bank. Synergetically memory bank, their experience. Give me some feedback on synergetically memory bank. What does that mean?
Well, what's synergy mean?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Synergy is really about synchronized energy.
Yeah. And also doing more with less.
It's saying you've got this memory bank, and in this memory bank, you've stored it. Now you can store it, you can retrieve it, you can aggregate it, and you can re-aggregate it.
Yes.
So now what you're looking at with a set of information is you're saying, okay, well, here's this stuff. And now with programs like Excel, and probably that's old horse now, but you can absolutely do a what if and work out a scenario.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now that my hose business, we track points after point after point after point. And we say, okay, so what happens if I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've experimented for 30 years, consciously experimented to say, what's going to happen if I do this? What happens if I do that? And you know what? Some days it's so ugly, I can't show my face around the place because it's such a terrible thing. And then all of a sudden you improve it. You just say, okay, well, we know not to go down that road. That was the wrong rabbit hole. And that's why I like the idea of Slinky.
Well, you would not need a bidet if something weren't full of shit in the first place.
Well, that very appropriate thing, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to start asking people how they feel, because you know there's been a lot of ugly on today's call. So thank you to everyone. Okay, let's go. Johnny Butler, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I'm feeling good for some reason, despite all your crap, Kelly. It's amazing that one or two paragraphs about children have occupied all the time, and yet we still haven't exhausted it at all.
Yeah.
My head's still working around experimenting and yes, and how far it's appropriate to experiment and where I don't want to experiment. Yeah, the way we live our lives, the way we learn, the way we add to our knowledge and the type of knowledge we add to. Interesting. Yeah, got a lot to think about. So I'm thinking. That's how I feel. So, Henry, how do you feel? What do you take out of today?
Thank you, John. Feeling great, feeling great. Enjoyed the call. I watched some of Bucky's interviews, and one of the interviewer asked Bucky, how do you keep so relevant? How do you keep, picking up things? And he said, I always ask questions like a child, intuitively, just always asking questionings, always learning. So that's very much a part of what we saw today in his writings and what he brings out. A couple of great words came out. Anticipatory imagination. Thought that was really cool. And innate urge. So yeah, picked up a couple of really good pointers. Really enjoyed that. Philemon, back from the outside. How do you feel and what'd you get out of today, mate?
Thanks, mate. Yes, the first 20 minutes were very disturbing because I had the fire brigade here in the building and I had to let them in. I'm the only one in the building. There was a big hassle. So I'm glad I got to sink in at the 20-minute mark. I love this topic. I practice this topic. I'm very familiar with this topic. It was great observing it through the words of Bucky. I was thinking how my daughter, who is almost 6, we got her roller skates yesterday. And day one, roller skates, and she's going around the big, long kitchen bench top, round and round, holding it. And I go, let go, stop. I am very experiential. Kelly says, talks about touching the stove. I often talk about it the way I live as well. Even when I know the stove is hot, it's red hot, I'll still mind just touching it in that moment to see what's going to happen. So Emily's going around the bench top, and I'm like, come on, no hands. You can do it with no hands, because I know her capability. She goes, no. I go, do you want a challenge? She goes, yes. I went to the fridge, I grabbed 2 eggs, and I said, open your hands. I put 2 eggs in her hands. I go, now, you want ice cream tonight after dinner? Bribery, yeah, it's not good. I get it, all kind of things, but I'm looking at accelerating. I'm looking at being that bond between your magnetic sticks there. And I said, okay, now you go around without touching any bench tops. If you drop the egg, you're cleaning it and you don't get ice cream. If you get around roller skating, eggs in hand, giddy up, we got ice cream after dinner. Now, she didn't know that she could do it on day one, but she could roller skate. And so this morning we were out in the street and she's roller skating. Would she have learnt so quick if I didn't put the risk of 2 eggs in her hands to experience all that kind of thing? And would she fall over? The risk was minimal. She realised that, and the outcome was ice cream. So it's risk reward. So kind of like how do we bribe ourselves with a lot of things to take action, to think less, and all that kind of stuff? That's what I was getting through it. Like I said, I'm familiar with this conversation, and I love experiencing stuff. And probably one of the blessings about not coming out of that traditional industrial education system, in a way, failed miserably in school. I got straight out in the street, really. So put me behind a lot in life, but put me ahead with this kind of stuff. That's what I got. Looking forward to continuing through the other points in the following weeks. Steve, how you feeling, and what did you get out of today?
Well, this anticipatory imagination really was big time for me. The idea that there may be a difference between just imagination and anticipatory imagination. Anticipatory imagination seems to have a vector to it, seems to have a direction to it. And somehow this relates to intention. And intention seems to me to be about noticing what is and noticing what is possible. And if I don't have a sense of what is and have a sense of a possibility of something, I don't have an intention. I'm pondering these words, and I thought it was a really powerful thing. And my big epiphany is this 90-degree thing. I mean, I don't know how many times we've been beating this 90-degree. Manu has been he's been very gentle with me. And, but I really got this 90-degree thing tonight. I really got it. And at least at a new level. So that's been cool. So let's see, Kat, how are you feeling? What's your takeaway tonight?
And even just